Hello there, it's me, Nate Jackson, Criterion Collector guy. Criterion Collection reviewer guy. I don't collect the Criterion. I want to get some, but as you can tell, I didn't make a big entrance or do anything spectacularly different because this is one of those movies. Number 59, The Night Porter. Oh god. As you can tell, it was directed by some woman named Lucia Cavallini or something. It's from 1974, English, 118 long, bizarre minutes. Basically, it's about this. Okay, I'll admit the first half was relatively interesting. I think part of the reason why I fell out of this one is because I didn't understand the plot full until I watched it. Basically, it's about this guy named Max who is a night porter in a hotel, and he works a night shift, and basically he works behind the desk and all that. And one night they're having this party for the countess, and this young couple come in, and the woman looks at the porter and is just totally shocked, and they're totally like shocked by seeing each other, and we wonder, like, of course, like what's going on. And then through flashback, up until the moment Max finally confronts her, I think her name's Lucia, is told through their backstory is told through flashback. Max was a Nazi officer in the Third Reich, and and Lucia was a prisoner in the concentration camps, and they had over time he chose to look after her, and they eventually started a relationship, some kind of bizarre sadomasochistic relationship that involves singing Marlene and Dietrich while wearing overalls and holding your breasts together and cutting heads off of other Nazi officers and some bullshit. So there's a lot of weird tension, and all the tension kind of just unfolds up until he finally confronts her, and you think, oh god, what's gonna happen? And at first he's yelling at her and he's pushing her, and then finally, just within seconds, they fall into each other's arms and kiss and hold each other and roll around on the floor and I guess make love. It's in that scene, because I guess they actually did fall in love with each other at some point, which is really fucking twisted. It's not, because it's not clear as to whether or not she's actually Jewish. I guess it was said that her father was a socialist or something like that, which of course was a big no-no for the Nazis. So pretty much after they confront each other, the film just falls apart. I mean, they only have there's only one sex scene in it, and it's effective, but it's kind of what you've been waiting for all this time. I mean, there's a little bit of oral sex, but you don't see it. It's not Brown Bunny or anything like that. But yeah, it's basically like, meanwhile, like, Max is part of these bunch of these officers who are holding these meetings to try and clear their name of their past. And Lucia is like one of the last people living or something like that who could like frame them or all that, or get them or sentence them to death or something like that for the crimes and all that. Because this is set in like 1957, I think. Yeah, so at least 15 years after the war. Or 15 years since the heyday of the war, I I guess. Yeah, so he has to hide her out in this apartment, and eventually they become suspicious, and it's really, he tries to call on his friends for help, but they end up turning a blind eye eventually, and so he finally tries to sneak her out, and they get shot on a bridge, and there's the end. That's it. I mean, I knew I wasn't gonna like this one. It's bland. It it builds up to something that, first of all, here's another thing. First of all, I thought that the whole machistic relationship between them was like, I thought he wanted to be the one, he wanted to be the masochistic one, or the sadist, or the sadist. I thought he wanted her to be the masochistic one, her to be the one to beat him or something like that. I thought this was going to be way more. I thought this was going to be way more like within the during the time of the concentration camps, not like afterwards. I think a large part of my problem is that there's barely any dialogue in this movie. It really bugs me. I mean, especially from Lucia. Lucia barely talks in this film. I mean, I think she talks. She only has like 5 lines after they meet. She talks a couple of things to her husband. She talks a bit to her husband, but who's like some conductor, and that's they see each other at the concert. And, she ends up making up excuses so that she can be with Max, and falls flat real quick. Before I did this review, I was reading an article on a guy who's reviewing Criterion Collection as well on his blogspot. His name's Matthew Dessin, I think. You should look it up. It's criterioncollection.blogspot.com, and he probably says it way better than I could ever review this movie, because all I'm just going to tell you is it sucks. I mean, as far as sex-driven movies go, it's not Solo bad. Oh, I don't think there's a movie that's Solo bad. But it's not as good as The Unbearable Lightness of Being. At least Unbearable Lightness of Being had Daniel Day-Lewis and Juliette Binoche. At least had some names. Names! And Juliette Binoche's kind of hot. Even with the screaming. So yeah, so that means that I have to give that movie an F+. The Night Porter gets an F+. It's boring. It loses fizzle real quick, and it's more or less a silent film. You can basically fast forward through the whole thing and not get a glimpse of dialogue, and you can pretty much get the whole thing. I was going to do some really elaborate thing, because like I said, there's some scene where Lucia is like during the concentration camps, where she does this iconic scene where she sings Marlene Dietrich while like wearing like SS officers like hat and overalls, and she's topless, and she like does this really sexy dance with all these officers who are wearing masks, and it doesn't make any friggin' sense, but what does in this movie? And I was gonna replicate that, but I don't have the energy or interest in this movie anyway, so fuck it. The movie, I mean, not the scene. Anyway, well, that's it for me. Night Porter, F+, don't bother. How's it the Peeping Tom? So, yeah, how's it the Peeping Tom is better than this movie? Maybe because it's just better. Anyway. Well, 3 movies done this weekend, or my weekend. I work Wednesday through Saturday, so yeah. Did Sherrod on Sunday, Peeping Tom yesterday, and Night Porter today. How do we go to one of the best movies I've seen in the Criterion Collection, to a so-so movie, to a really sucky movie? How did that happen? I don't know. Anyway, let's see. Number 60. Autumn Sonata, which is still coming, should be here probably tomorrow, sometime before the end of the week. So we'll get to that one as soon as I can. Probably Sunday. Probably won't be till Sunday, because I think it's a double CD. So and it's in Swedish, I think. So we're gonna need some time for that one. Then Life of Brian. Brian will be easy. We'll do Brian as probably the same day because I've seen Life of Brian, so I know exactly what's going on, and it'll be fun to see it again. And then I think Passion of Joan of Arc, which I don't know when that's going to be in, but then that, and then Carnival of Souls, which is still sitting on this shelf right here. Still sitting here waiting for me to review it, but just wait its turn. Eventually we'll get to it. And then I forget what's after that. I think The Third Man and some other stuff. But anyway, so the next the next four we got are Autumn Sonata, Monty Python's Life of Brian, Passion of Joan of Arc, and Carnival of Souls. So, blah, blah, blah. Thanks for watching. Sorry about The Night Porter. And if you've seen it, I feel bad for you. And don't watch it because you waste your time. And I'm going to do something else with my life right now. Something that doesn't involve Nazis. Anyway, we'll see you sometime later this weekend for Autumn Sonata. And until then, goodbye.